Welcome to Roundtable Decision. As promised in yesterday's video, today's video is the shorter version where I have just the clips of a few senators on the Senate floor. So I hope you enjoy, and here we go.
Mr. President, this is a time of extraordinary crisis for our nation. In this time of crisis, I call upon each of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle to rise above. Rise above petty partisanship. Rise above the bickering that so often consumes Washington. Rise above and put first the priorities of the millions of Americans who are hurting. Look, there is a time for political disagreements. There's a time for policy disagreements. I am no stranger to robust political and policy disagreements. But we are in the midst of a global pandemic. People are dying. People are suffering. Last night, when this Senate voted on whether to move forward with emergency relief legislation for the millions of people being devastated by the economic disaster we're seeing as a result of the coronavirus epidemic, every single Democrat in this body voted to block consideration of this bill. Now, for those of you at home who are not poring over a Senate procedural matter, what does it mean to vote to block consideration? It doesn't mean they voted against the bill. It means they voted against even starting to take it up. The New York Times headline moments afterwards said, Democrats block $1.7 trillion stimulus bill. Of course, that headline had the fault of being accurate. And so within minutes, the New York Times changed it to Democrats block $1.7 trillion stimulus bill, citing worker concerns. That was headline number 2. But then apparently the partisan leanings in the New York Times were too strong for that. And so they revised it a third time to say partisan division halts discussion of the bill. No, it wasn't partisan division. It was one party, the Democratic Party, saying to this chamber and the American people, hell no. We won't even take this up and discuss it.
I have never been more disgusted since Kavanaugh. You tried to destroy a good man's life just to keep the seat open. And close friends of mine in the House have publicly said, this is an opportunity to reshape the country and our image. It's not going to happen. We didn't let you destroy Brett Kavanaugh's life to keep the seat open, and we're not going to let you turn the country upside down to shape it in your image. We will work with you in a very generous fashion to help people who've lost their jobs, help doctors and nurses who've run out of supplies. Shame on you. Shame on you for coming in at the 11th hour, taking good faith negotiations and throwing them in an ideological ditch. Because the House hijacked this process. Nancy Pelosi tried to control impeachment. She tried to set the terms of the debate for the United States Senate in the impeachment trial before she would send over the impeachment articles. Remember that whole debacle? And as we were dealing with this impeachment garbage, China was on fire. You'll hear more about that later in the year. But I guess what I would say is that we need to get on with it. You're not going to be successful. We're not going to let this happen to the American people. Rahm Emanuel, who I actually like, said, for every crisis is an opportunity. This is not your opportunity to impose same-day voting. In the House bill, they're requiring every state in the union, where you like it or not, to allow same-day registration and voting. I'd personally like to do that in South Carolina, not to combat the coronavirus. That's a dream that they have. This is not the time to enact that dream. If you're on a ventilator or you're a nurse at a hospital waiting on medical...
The senator from Maine.
Mr. President,
We are in the midst of a crisis in our country, a crisis caused by the coronavirus. I cannot believe that the answer to this crisis, as we move to address the economic consequences that are so severe for the people of this country, that the answer from our friends on the other side of the aisle is delay, delay, delay. No sense of urgency, no hurry. I will tell you, Mr. President, I've had the honor to serve in this body for many years. Never, never have I seen Republicans and Democrats fail to come together when confronted with a crisis. We did so after 9/11. We did so with the financial meltdown in 2008. Here we are facing an enemy that is invisible, but equally devastating to the health of our people and to the health of our economy.
I meant what I said on the floor, Tucker.
Yeah.
More charitable Americans are thinking to themselves, well, there's some good members of Congress, but we can't figure out what they're good for. Less charitable Americans are saying, you know, how did these morons make it through the birth canal? I mean, people are losing their jobs. They're losing their savings. They're losing their 401k. We think we know how to get the economy back on its feet over the next 60 to 90 days until we can get control of the virus. And some of my colleagues, they're acting like a-holes. I'm sorry, I'm not saying they mean to, but nonetheless, they're killing it.